Hi guys, this is a very brief video, not really a video, kind of a podcast to help you walk through the revision process. If you're a visual learner like I am, sometimes having sort of like someone to walk you through the sections to sort of review what the expectations are. I just want to be very, very clear that I communicate that so that you don't waste your time in the revision, and so that we are on the same page, and also to review what we talked about over 2 weeks ago at this point. So this is on how to revise essay number 1. These are tips and guidelines. So in the beginning, the very first section of this essay, the expectation is that you'll have an introduction. Now, the job of the introduction is to offer background on your topic, background on the culture, background on the topic, background that will set you up for dropping your defendable thesis statement next. So what you're doing is highlighting things. You want to anchor this in the big ideas of the conversation. Who are the biggest talkers? You can name drop a little bit from your research, but at the same time you want to avoid fluff. Please avoid fluffiness. The next big section, which happens to just be a sentence, is your claim or thesis statement. So in this is one sentence long. It should not be more than one sentence. It can be a long, grammatically correct sentence, but it has to be a sentence, no more. And this is your defendable claim or argument. And most importantly, you are telling your reader right now that all of your artifacts are tied to this argument. Okay, and next is a preview. Now, we talked about this. It's the preview of the artifacts. So the purpose of this is to make sure, like you're a tour guide, that you let your readers know what they're about to experience. You have 3 artifacts that you've carefully selected, and they are tied to the claim. And here you do want to create, because it's the first reference. And anytime you have a first reference in academic writing, or writing in general, it's very professional to go ahead and offer the title, the date, the publication, or if it's a video, the director, and information that will let us know, kind of like the introductions. You wouldn't introduce a person and then later in the evening tell everybody what their name is and the things you know about them. You kind of lead with that. So this is that type of, just a preview, and I think like a brief indication of what it is, because when you talk about artifacts, they're not necessarily all articles. Some artifacts you need to let us know it's a documentary, or it is a advertisement, or it is a book, it's an article, it's an item, someone used a cartoon. So you need to indicate the type of media that each artifact is. Okay, so we move on to the meat of the paper. So the very first thing with the first artifact, and I want to be very clear about this, it's a short summary of artifact number 1. I'm talking about 3 sentences long about artifact 1. This is one of the big issues of the first versions of the paper. Some people went on and summarized the articles for a page and a half, and that is just not this assignment. So a short summary giving us the big idea or the big goal of this particular artifact, why did its creator put it in the world, and that's all you need to tell us, because everything else that we are interested in from you is your analysis. of artifact number 1. Artifact number 1, this is where you begin to tell us your assessment of purpose or audience or stance or media, or I might talk about, or audiences, or I might talk about, and this is a very important note about the elements of the rhetorical situation. Please listen to me when I tell you this. Part of this exercise is to see if you have the ability, you are demonstrating your ability to look at an artifact and decide what your argument needs of these. You might need to discuss purpose and stance. You may need to discuss purpose and audience only. You may need all of them, but your discernment or your ability to decide what would make your argument the strongest, depending on which of these or which combination of these, has everything to do with how you successfully defend its need to be included in your paper. So we are not interested in just a summary or what the ideas were, but we want you to, your reader wants to, and I say we, I'm talking about your readers, are interested in your thoughts on how this artifact is being used. I told you sometimes it's complicated when the only artifact you choose is an article, because it's not just an article. Some artifacts, as I gave the example of the Confederate flag, carry a great deal of history, carry a great deal of purposes, people from opposing views having different purposes, and a whole lot is packed into a flag that has no words on it. So an artifact can definitely be much more than an article, even if that's only what you've chosen. But the assessment of it doesn't change no matter what the object is in a rhetorical situation. So just remember, it doesn't have to be all of the elements, but you are expected to look at your artifact and read in between the lines and look at the details that have been provided, and assess its position, its situation, and determine what's most interesting to you to talk about as it's connected to your thesis. Of course, this you do times 3, right? Because there are 3 artifacts. And then finally, a conclusion. And your conclusion, of course, is supposed to tell us what are the big ideas revealed in this work. And most importantly, because you had such a little short window to talk about your piece of the conversation, how would you continue this conversation? Spell check. And that's it. That's all. Your conclusion is just comprised of 2 things in this case. What are the big ideas that have been revealed in this work that you did, this essay, in your opinion? And how would you continue this conversation if you had more time, if you had more space, if you could expand this into a different paper now that you've done so much research? Okay? Have a good 4th of July.